Welcome to Gulfstream Park. It is Sunday, March 16th, 2014. Christina Bosanakis here, and I'm joined by Stephen Skaggs. And Stephen, we're coming into last couple of weeks just before the Florida Derby, and just so much action. And today we do have the Rainbow Six. There was a carryover, and that it was $3.3 million. That starts in race 6. And pretty competitive card, I think, today. For a pretty competitive 11-race card today.
I like the card. Good racing today.
There sure is. And before we move on to today's card, we will take a quick look back at yesterday's action, and that was highlighted by the Grade 2 Honey Fox, and the winner was a filly who knows how to get to the winner's circle. For the Honey Fox, she won it in 2013, and that is Center Court, trained by Rusty Arnold.
She is a racehorse. This filly has a lot of heart. Well, I say filly, now she's a mare, 5-year-old mare. It's good that Rusty Arnold got her back another year. G. Watts Humphrey's game, letting her have another campaign. She's a repeat winner of the Honey Fox, and she holds off Kitten's Point, who looks like she's primed to have a big year.
Kitten's Point from the Graham Motion barn. She ran such a huge race. To tell you the truth, at the end of it, I thought it was that Kitten's Point had got up, and I guess they were thinking about maybe whether they were going to go on with this filly or retire her after a couple of starts last year. Maybe she didn't really end off the year in high fashion, but she looks like she's come back. That was off a layoff.
Right. It's with a filly like that, a mare like that, you're taking a gamble because she's a Grade 1 winner, and her babies will probably be high-dollar yearlings or very successful racehorses, so they set out another year, but much respect to the connections. That's what we need in this game, is for them to keep running.
Yeah, we sure do, and she looks like she'll be going up to Keeneland, and we'll be running in the Jenny Wiley, but a really nice filly that we've gotten to know here at Gulfstream over the last couple of seasons. And speaking of which, we do have a filly, a little bit of sad news, actually very sad news. Yesterday, coming out of Palmettos, we had a filly, Only For You, who won a couple of graded stakes here at Gulfstream Park, the Devona Dale and the Forward Gal, both of those Grade 2 races from the Todd Pletcher barn, and injured yesterday after a workout at Palmettos, and unfortunately she was euthanized. She was pointing to the Florida Oaks here, and really sad, really sad for the connection. She was super nice filly.
Yeah, my condolences to the Glencrest Farm and the Great House family. It's sad to say that she was special instead of getting to say she is special. Filly was 4 for 4, Grade 2 winner, and looked like she had her future in front of her. Also, condolences out to the Pletcher team and staff. It's always tough for a barn for something like that bad to happen.
Yeah, it was terrible for those connections, and I do send out all my condolences as well. And but before we move on, we're just going to talk about today's card. Tell us a little bit your perception of the weather, not only the weather, we've had spectacular weather here, but in terms of if you've seen the track, the way it's been playing, whether it's been in the mornings or in the afternoons, what have been your observations?
Well, it's a warm day. It's 82 degrees, but we got a heavy wind coming from the south, meaning it's in the stretch, the front side, it's blowing in the horses' faces. It's pretty strong. So this morning, horses were fast on the backside, and then they were crawling home, and I expect it to be that way in the afternoon. We'll probably see fast fractions early in the one-turn races, and you'll see some slow last quarters. Okay.
So looking on, we'll jump into today's card. We do have an 11-race card on tap for this afternoon. We'll start off with the first race, which is a 6250 claiming event, 6 furlongs on the main track. There is a scratch. Number 2, Highland Sarah, and number 6, Baby Gaviota will be ridden by Elvis Trujillo. And just to let everybody know, Luis Saez, he was off his mounts yesterday. He's off his mounts again today. So something to factor into your handicapping. And my top selection, I went with number 1, Paraguana. And I've decided I'm going to throw out that last race. That was going 7/8, cutting back to 6 furlongs today. But I see you went with another horse, Stephen.
I went with the 4, Fast Fantasy. She's not going to be 6-1. There is a scratch in here from the same barn, Giuseppe Ida Cerny. It looks like he entered both horses, scratched one, makes sense. The 4 Fast Fantasy will be on the lead. She has back numbers that destroys this field. She ran a 13 on the sheets. The rest of these are running 17s, 19s, 20s. She's the horse to beat if she's ready. She is coming off a layoff, probably has some soundness issues, 6-month layoff, but I think they're in it to win it.
I do too, and I had her among my top selections. Looking on to the second race in today's card, and it is a 25,000 claiming event, a 1.16 miles on the turf course, and that kicks off the early pick 4. There are 3 pick 4s on today's card, and we do have a scratch number 7, and that is Poco Man. And my top choice, I went with number 5, Malibu Way. And from the Mike Maker barn, Ken and Sarah Ramsey, when they get together, then it's a pretty lethal combination. But I see that you went with number 4, and that is Lighthouse Sound.
Right. Lighthouse Sound is trained by Lauren Richards, very conservative trainer. He bats at about a 25% training rate. This horse has some back class. He's actually 3 for 9 at Gulfstream Park. Might even get the lead in here. I like this horse today at a price.
Another horse that I used, number 6, Presumptive, from the Chad Brown barn, and coming out of a race 35,000 claiming event, is dropping a little bit. And I see that you you also used the number 3. Looks like we both used the Sleepless Night.
The 3, Sleepless Night, probably the class of this field. He's never been in for the $25,000 tag he is today, so he's probably the horse to beat, but his running style, he usually comes from out of it. I didn't see much speed in here, but if you look at his last race, he actually inherited the lead, so maybe that'll be their tactics today again.
Yeah, I liked him last time, and I decided I'll use him again today because I agree. I do think that he's probably the class of this bunch. On to the third race on today's card, and it is a maiden special weight event. It is for it's for 3-year-olds, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course, and we do have the scratch of the main track only entrant, and that is number 9, Financial Modeling, and there's a jockey change. Number 6, Sharp Stick, will be ridden by Luis Contreras. And my top choice, I went with number 7, Private Relations. This is a $325,000 Fasig-Tipton Saratoga, from the Saratoga sale, Warfront, and making his second start and coming out of a race that I think quite a lot of the winner that day, Dance Champion. And I think this colt should move forward off of that effort.
He will. John Kimmel is about a 20+% trainer, second time out, the son of Warfront. Joel Rosario sticks with the horse, and like you mentioned, there's a horse in later today for Christophe Clement, Dance Champion, who beat him. I ended up going for the 3, Channel. The horse is 10-1. I guess I'm shopping for value here. Trained by Eddie Plesa. This horse was actually favored at Churchill last spring. He was 3-2 that day. He got beat by Wesley Ward horse, which usually happens, but I think Plesa is going to do with this kind of horse. Being by English Channel, the 7.5 furlongs should benefit him.
Now, is there anybody else you're going to use in there? I know you also used number 1, and that's Rompin' Reed. I know you did use also number 7, Private Relations, but what do you think of Rompin' Reed getting blinkers on for the first time?
It should sharpen the one Rompin' Reed up. My only concern with him is I think he wants to go further. I think he's a talented horse, but I would rather have him going 9 furlongs than 7.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. On to the fourth race on today's card. It is another maiden special weight. It is for 4-year-olds and up. 6 furlongs on the main track, and there is a scratch, number 5, Heaven's Touch. And I went with number 1 and said, Take to the Streets. We can have a look at that latest effort. Stephen just showed most of the, or led most of the way, was just beaten late by a very nice horse named Accelerare that's going to be running later on this afternoon from the Todd Pletcher barn. So there's no shame in defeat by that one.
Absolutely not. Jonathan Shepard, not known for cranking him first out. This horse went 109 flat that day, just got beat half a length. I needed him. I wish he would have won. This is a nice horse. He was actually out jogging this morning on the track. Jonathan Shepard, Hall of Fame type trainer, even schooled him in the paddock today. He's treating him like a stakes horse. I think he is a stakes horse. I think he'll probably be 1-9 today.
You look excited.
This is a nice horse.
I've been sitting next to this guy long enough to know that he's kind of pumped up on this one. And
yeah, I mean, this horse went 57 and change the other day. I haven't seen a horse do that the whole meet.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, Jonathan Shepard, just certain trainers, you expect them to run huge first time out. And I think this horse is just really primed this time. But let's talk about somebody else in there. There's a horse that I also used in my picks, and I see that you do it as well. Number 6, Dr. J. Dub. Carlo Vaccarezza has been doing with these horses. Now, this is he's making his second start, but he's had a couple of really nice maidens jump up, win first time out at a price. So, he's only had a limited number of horses running here at the meet. He's done okay.
Carlo Vaccarezza gets better each day as a trainer. I think this is where you will find the value in this race, is maybe trying to catch the exacta or maybe even a cold trifecta.
Yeah, I used a Dr. J. Dub. Saw him schooling here the other day. Very nice horse, and I think one that we're going to have to look out for. I also used a number 4, and that's a Pasolini. $875,000 at the Fasig-Tipton March sale. Kieran McLaughlin, first-time Lasix. Kieran, his numbers are really, really good first-time Lasix.
Right, that is the time to bet, Kieran, his first-time Lasix.
It sure is. On to the 5th race on today's card, and this kicks off the pick 4. It is a 12-5 claiming race, 6 furlongs on the main track. There is a scratch, number 7. Now hear this. And number 9, Devil's Peak, will be ridden by Kendrick Carmouche. And I have my top selection. I went with number 9, and that was Devil's Peak from the Jamie Ness barn, and claimed 2 back by that trainer. Came back, won last time at this level. 5.5 furlongs, but I don't think that's going to back to 6. I don't think that's a problem.
No, in fact, the horse was passed and came back and got the victory. And Kendrick Carmouche was aboard that day. Jamie Ness claimed that horse off David Fox. He moved up significantly on ragas and sheets. He ran a 17 that day. I went with the 6, Port Conway. I think he's the class of the field, the speed of the field. Terry Pompey puts Paco Lopez aboard. The horse hasn't run in a year. That's the concern, but he's also never run this cheap. This is a tough race, though. It's the beginning of the middle pick 4 and the end of the early pick 4, so it's a kind of a pivotal race that I had difficulty finding one I liked.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to, you might have to use a couple of them in that particular race. We're going to take a short break, folks, and we'll come back and have a look at the 6th on the card that kicks off the Rainbow 6. We're up over $3.3 million.
OBS, the 2-year-old source to the world in 2013. With undefeated juvenile champion Asia Express drawing high praise in Japan. 2-time Breeders' Cup champion Secret Circle. And Breeders' Cup 3rd mile winner Golden Sense in North America. Make plans to find your next champion at OBS 2-year-old sales in 2014. OBS, we measure success by performance.
ExpressBet brings you a whole new way to play the races. An easier, better way to wager on your favorite tracks. With a more streamlined interface for faster wagering. With more handicapping insights from our world-class experts. With more racetracks, nearly 200 to choose from. And with your personalized multi-view wagering screen, your tracks, your wager pad, and your video are all on one page. It's simply the best way to play the races. Your way. Welcome to ExpressBet. Your way to play.
Welcome back to Gulfstream Park. We're going to have a look at the 6th race on today's card that kicks off the Rainbow 6. There's a carryover. It's over $3.3 million, and I think we've got a pretty salty affair for this 6th race today. There is a scratch at number 11, and that's Dolan's Joy for a main track only entrant. And number 2, Colonel Gian, will be ridden by Alex Solis. There's a 35,000 maiden claiming event, 1 mile on the turf course. I went with number 1, Valid Concept, from the Milt Wolfson barn, and coming into this off of a couple of 3rd place efforts, getting blinkers on today, which I'm hoping might sharpen this one up a little bit.
The one is the horse to beat, Valid Concept. This horse has been knocking on the door. Today he gets blinkers. Today he gets Javier Castellano. This is a competitive race. I went with a very long shot, the 9, 20-1, Prince Zur, trained by Eduardo Caramori. He's actually on the duck right now, but he's a good horseman. He's based in Kentucky. Being by Scat Daddy, he goes to his go-to rider, Kent DeSormo. They actually had a winner last year. So if you look at the jockey-trainer combination, they're 50%.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good. That is a good combination. Let's talk about some of the other ones. I know you also used number 8, and actually I did as well. Number 8, Brasigliano, and from the Mike Maker barn, dropping in here. Made in 75 company last time. So now we're getting a class break.
First time Mike Maker. Dale Romans had previously trained this horse. Another one of the contenders in here.
Yeah, and the horse I also threw in there. And number 7, Waliana from the Dale Romans barn, coming into this off of a 5th, beaten just a couple of lengths, and that was at Churchill back in November, so coming off of a bit of a layoff. But I think that this race, you might have to use a couple in here too.
Maybe all.
Maybe. On to the 7th race on today's card, and this kicks off the pick 5. And it is, there's a jockey change, and number 7, Elusive Success, is going to be ridden by Joel Rosario. It is a 25,000 allowance optional claiming race, 7 furlongs on the main track. And my choice in there, I went with number 5, and that's Accelerare from the Todd Fletcher barn. I always have our man Larry Colmes. He gives us all the pronunciations, which apparently means accelerate in Italian, FYI. But this horse is coming into off of I think a pretty good race, a pretty good victory last time, even though just won by a half a length. I thought that was a pretty good effort.
It was a good horse he beat, and that horse, the 5, was relentless that day. The whole time I thought he was beat. I thought he was beaten. Javier just kept riding. He beat a good horse by half a length. The 3, Palm Island, worth mentioning. First time Joe Orsino. This horse won at Hollywood for David Hoffman's the first time he got Lasix. He actually ran a 7 on the sheets that day. That's the fastest in here, but he is trying dirt. He is coming off a layoff. He's on dirt for the first time. The horse trained great the other morning.
Yeah, I don't think from the pedigree, I don't know what your opinion is. I think his pedigree would suggest that he should be able to handle the dirt here. Yeah,
being by E. Dubai, he should like dirt better, and he's handled it well in the mornings here. I guess the bigger concern might be the layoff.
I want to ask you one question. Number 4, Morgan's Gorilla. I had this one in my my selections, and I see that you didn't. But what do you make of that last race? Came off of a pretty lengthy layoff, and I thought ran a pretty good race. Was beaten by Normandy Invasion. Normandy Invasion, really, I think it's going to be a nice horse for Chad Brown this year.
I was impressed with Morgan's Gorilla that day. Yes, he got beat 10 lengths, but Normandy Invasion set the track record. They went 133, so Morgan's Gorilla went about 135 that day off the layoff. That makes him competitive in here.
I thought so. On to the 8th race on the card, and it is a maiden special weight. It is 6 furlongs on the main track. And my top selection in there, I went with the number 12. It seems like both of us went to the outside there in this particular race. I was torn between the 12, Hannah Haley, and from the Todd Fletcher barn, and ridden by Javier Castellano, and number 13, Snowbell. Tom Albertrani trains this one. I was torn between these two. I went with the former, but I see that you went with number 13, Snowbell, and we can actually take a look at Snowbell's last race and get your thoughts on this one.
I thought she got beat by a future graded stakes horse trained by Bill Mott, West Coast girl. But what I liked about Snowbell, you'll see her in the back. She's the gray horse with the Darley Silks. She ended up dead heating with a horse named Bridled Heiress. Bridled Heiress came back and won impressively for Terry Pompey. That's why I ended up with Snowbell. She's a nice filly trained by Albatrani.
And if you look back in her debut in July at Saratoga, when she won, she was beaten by a filly named Our Amazing Rose. I was there that day, and Our Amazing Rose, trained by Todd Fletcher. She's going to be a really nice filly. I don't know if she makes it back to, I think she's started training again, but definitely she's been beaten. The horses that have been beating her have been really nice.
Yeah, Our Amazing Rose went 57 and change at Saratoga that day. I thought it was the most impressive maiden of the meet.
On to the 9th race on the card is a 25,000 allowance optional claimer, a mile 16th on the turf. And my top selection in there, I went with number 3, Why Catherine, and we can actually take a look at that last race. Why Catherine was third, beaten 3/4 of a length, and another filly that's in here as well is Auntie Martha, the number 4, and both of these fillies ran a pretty good race last time.
Why Catherine broke on top that day. Paco Lopez opted to take her back. I think it's the reason she got beat. John Velasquez is aboard today. I expect her to break well. I expect her to be on the lead, and she galloped about a 1/16 of a mile past that field. She wins today.
Okay, good. I agree with you. Yeah, we're on the same page on that race. On to the 10th race on today's card, and is a 75,000 allowance optional claiming race, 1.16 miles on the turf course. There's a scratch number 5, Charlie the Boss. Joel Rosario will be aboard number 7, Edison. And Edison, my top selection in there. I'm hoping for another good day for Todd Pletcher. And coming into this off of a pretty big 4 3/4 length victory. That was on January 26th. Hasn't raced since, Stephen.
This is a good race. These are some nice 3-year-olds in here. I went with the 10 Sniper. I think he's coming out of a nice race. The son of Dabawi's getting blinkers. He actually ran a 95 time form rating when competing in Group 1s in Europe. I always subtract 12. That gives him about an 83 buyer. There isn't a horse as fast in here, but I do think Christophe Clement's horse, the 6th Dance Champion, is the horse to beat.
Yeah, I like Dance Champion. Also had this one. If you look at Dance Champion, who's been running behind in his debut, ran behind a couple of nice horses, including Picosa, came back and won like a good thing just last week. On to the 11th and final race on today's card, if our papers don't all fly away, Stephen, and that is a 35,000 maiden claiming 1 mile on the turf course. And we do have a jockey change. Number 7, West Virginia Mountain Mama, and that's how I'm going to say, will be ridden by Elvis Trujillo today. And my top selection, I went with number 10, Auntie Pearl, but I see you went with Siawe.
I went with Siawe last time. I've been chasing this filly. She's actually trained by an unknown commodity in Belinda Manchio, so I'm hoping I get a little value. I probably will get 10-1 today. I think she's probably should be about 5-1 in this race.
Yeah, this is a filly that I also was on last time, and I thought that I would keep an eye on her and maybe take a look at her in the paddock, and a couple of other horses that I used. I also used a number 2, Secret Fascination, and who's probably going to be showing speed in here.
I like the 2, Secret Fascination. I think with Paco Lopez aboard, she'll probably turn for home in front. We'll be able to see if any of them can run her down, but she's probably the horse to beat in there.
Well, that's it for today's 11 race card, and we do have the Rainbow Six. $3.3 million is the carryover starting in that 6th race, and that's it for myself. Stephen, we're sending you off. I know you're going off to Kentucky. You won't be joining us at least on the morning shows here, but I'm sure we'll see you along the way.
I'll be around another week and hopefully next year.
Yeah, I know we'll be looking out for Stephen, and this afternoon we'll be looking out for Ron Nicoletti because he's going to join me this afternoon. And folks, I hope you come back and join us too.